Well, you're gonna get people to hate you
Yeah.
right off the bat.
But yeah, I totally see that he already has a vision for AI art, right? In that case, it's not really as much lazy as it really is just a tool. Like,
Give it time. We're so early with AI art, but the pitchforks are coming and I just know it. Today we're going to have Dylan and Josh, who have made this game called Echoes of Eldoria. And so they have gone down this journey of becoming full-time or part-time game devs while going to college. And I wanted to share their story with you guys. Helps you kind of push through and continue your own journeys. So here they are. You're both in college, right? And
yeah,
from
makes sense.
what you guys told me a little bit was it was a project, and you said, "Hey, people liked it," and you guys decided to run with it and see if something could come out of it.
It was started off as a high school competition project. We had a club in our high school called TSA, or Technology Student Association,
Hmm.
right? And basically they had like a ton of engineering events. One of them was specifically video game design. And so us and like some friends, we just thought we wanted to tackle it because we really enjoy the club. We wanted to see what else we could do. And so we kind of started off. Originally, we wanted to make a kind of like I think it was a dungeon crawler type of RPG type game. But it turns out the specific rules of the competition, because it was still high school, there was no violence allowed. So eventually our idea kind of turned into this, Echoes of Eldoria, which is this 2D like puzzle platformer game where you have to get up as high as you can, pretty much. And it has similar vibes to like something like Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy or The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, and just to expand a bit more on Technology Student Association, me and Josh actually were the first out of our friends to join TSA. We were in it sophomore year. We did an event called Engineering Design, and then that progressed
That
into next year
sucks.
doing board game design. So we were actually very passionate about board game design and video game design. So senior year is when we actually started with video game design, and we did get some friends to hop in. It ended up being Josh and I being the most passionate and involved with it, but there were some other people that were involved in the process as well with the video game.
When you guys first kind of met, have you always thought of like, I want to just build like I like systems, I want to build ideas, or like what sparked this like hey, I really want to do this. Like what was the thing that inspired you that just really you guys grabbed onto?
Sure, yeah. For me, I've always enjoyed the STEM mindset, like creating something from the ground up. So one of the things that actually enabled us to do so well in the competition was the fact that we got to tell them that like we didn't use any like assets that were just from the internet. We were able to. Josh made the music himself, which is very impressive. We did all the coding. All the art was just like we all did it, which was it's really neat to see something that you created from the ground up. And I think that's kind of what I really enjoyed with it, with video game design, with board game design, something that you get to create. And I'm a really visual person, of course, so I really like to see the visual aesthetics of something that has been made.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'd say like I'm currently majoring in computer science, but I don't. I would say I have like, how do I put this? I don't technically have a lot of like super passion things, right? Like, of course, there's hobbies and things I really like to keep myself interested in. But a lot of the times when I get into something, it's just because I have something I want to see done. Like, I thought of a really cool project idea, and I'll do whatever it takes to learn it to make it happen, right? So for this one, like for video game design, I had a lot of experience in video editing beforehand. That is one of the things I'm really interested in. But for video game design, like I had done a few things in the past. I liked programming, but I wasn't like super into it all the time. Uh, this one, I wasn't too much in the group. Like I would do my things, but I wouldn't do as much originally until over winter of 2023, I think. I went to Taiwan, which is where my family is from. So I went to visit my family, and it was just really boring there. So I started kind of working on the game because I had nothing better to do. And then slowly I just started like really enjoying it. I started to see like the potential of like, okay, making a video game, this could actually be super, super cool, right? So then I became a lot more like into it. I started looking up a lot more YouTube videos and started thinking about like, okay, what are the ways to make this like stand out or make this the best out of everyone else at the competition? Because that was our main focus at the time, right? And so that's kind of how I got into it. It's just because I was really bored for 2 weeks straight.
Now, one of the things I'm like genuinely curious about is like, what are some of like just challenges you guys have been running into as from when you won that competition? You guys won that, right? Let me do like, yeah, you guys
Yeah.
won that one, right? Yeah. So you guys won the competition, and then you guys went, okay, now we need to go from winning the competition to, hey, let's see if we can actually launch this thing and make something out of it. Like what challenges have you had from that point to where you guys are now?
Comparing to like other games. So sure we won a competition that was, a bunch of students in high school, but when you actually look at the market there are so many great games that look so polished. Like everything about them seems like, yeah, this looks like a game that, um, thousands of people would play. And just comparing to other games, it makes you realize um how much polishing needs to be done with our game. And I every time I open the game, I'm like, okay, that needs to be changed, that needs to be changed. We need to do something different over here. Of course, mostly with the visual aspect of it. But I'd say that's a challenge, going from just a competition where maybe all the little mistakes don't matter that much when it's just kind of generic judging in total. Um, Now going to like, we really want to make this for people's enjoyment, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I also definitely feel that kind of like imposter syndrome when making this game, because it's one thing to have a game that's like successful, that's developed in maybe like 7 months against people of your own age, but it's a whole other thing to have it against like an entire Steam platform, right? Where there's a ton of like solo indie developers who have worked for years on these things, as well as like these major games. And it's like this is my first time, right? I'm kind of I don't know if I even belong on Steam, but it's just cool. I kind of see it as a resume builder right now because I totally think I could do better because I was learning everything for the first time while I was doing this. But I think it's still really impressive. I still really want to get out a really cool final product, and I think we're totally working on getting there. But yeah, that's totally one of the things. And I mean, I think another thing is that just because while we were making it originally, we were all in high school, we all had very similar lives. And now that we're in college, it's a little harder to coordinate and like work on things together to polish this game up and get it out for release.
Yeah, that is something I definitely should have mentioned as well. Like getting on the same schedule, it's so much easier based on the fact that Josh and I are at least we're 30 minutes away, as opposed to, across the country, which is super nice. And I enjoy the fact that it gives us an excuse to talk to each other every now and then. I'm a big fan of that too.
Yeah. And it's just the two of you guys, right? Or is there somebody else hiding in the background?
I think at this point the team is kind
At
of
this
just
point, it's
this.
it's
Yeah,
it's just the two of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
started off with like six, and then it like trickled down.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You worked out the people that were like serious about it, and then people that are like, I don't know, this was fun. I don't want to do this though.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to be motivated for such a long period of time, especially after we already finished the competition. We're not even in high school anymore. I totally understand why, um, you know, the other friends weren't as interested or did not want to participate in it as much anymore.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you guys consume any content as far as when it comes to like helping develop your game? Not I mean it could be even just, developing with using tools, or even just, the business aspect. Because one of the things for sure I've noticed with like indie development, and I think a lot of developers they kind of forget, is like this is more than just like putting out a piece of art. You know what I mean? You're not just developing a piece of art, you're developing a piece of art accompanied with a small business. You know what I mean? It's there's two components of it that I think we kind of miss out, or our developers forget about. And so it's like when you guys are thinking about your own internal roadmap on how you're going to get this thing to where you want it to be, like is there anything that you guys are consuming, or people that you're really like, yeah, this person's I started consuming their content and they helped me.
I mean, for me, I think ever since I got into it, I've been consuming a ton of it. Like it started with just like, of course, with coding help, but then I go to YouTube a lot. I look up a lot of things, like a lot of video essays on game designs of what good games do. I think that's really helpful to see, like, okay, there's this design decision that this very popular game has made, right? And why is it so good? And like, why does it do that? And then I can kind of try to emulate it in our game. And so that's kind of led to a mindset I really like to do, where I try to kind of imagine myself in the player's head, like what they would be thinking as they traverse the game. Like, I'm not very good at it. There's still definitely a lot of issues with the game, but I think that mindset in general has helped me improve a lot to try to like create levels that are more intuitive, hopefully. And other than that, I mean, of course, I kind of want to eventually turn this into making a small indie studio of my own. And this is just kind of the starting point. So I've kind of been looking into that too, like where I can go taking this into a business and like what is a good roadmap for that. I've been actually consulting ChatGPT a lot for that as well. And recently started using a little bit of Reddit to get like actual input of other people who like the same kind of passions that I do for this.
Yeah, and I'm a very business economics mindset guy. I have always been into STEM, but in high school, actually, there was another club that got me really into business as well, and that kind of entrepreneurship. So here at Mines, I'm studying business and engineering. So that kind of ties into what we're doing. I really enjoy, honestly, in my free time, I do watch videos on YouTube about like marketing or economics or stocks. Um, which, some of which don't pertain exactly to the video game, but I do definitely have interest in entrepreneurship. Um, and I think that the content on YouTube is probably my main source of learning when it comes to that. And I think as we get closer and closer to the release date, I'm gonna be watching more and more videos about how to best market the game, how to get people interested in the product, inform, convince people to play our game.
I think another thing I really like about like the fact that we're making this is I kind of see it as an awesome culmination of like everything I'd kind of learned or invested in up till this point in my life. Like, because when I was like 6, I started taking piano lessons, right? And I think that that's awesome because it culminates in me composing the music for this game. Or, for example, when I was in 6th grade, when I was like 12 or so, I got really into YouTube, so I started learning video editing, and that kind of evolved into me like looking into the camera angles, visual aspect, like color, cinematography, things like that. And that kind of also pays off in this to make like, because we were trying to make a lot of really pretty images within our game. And then same as Dylan, I joined that club too. That got me really into business. I'm taking a business minor at CU Boulder too. And so I think that's another really awesome thing that can culminate where eventually if I can take this into a business, I can use a lot of the things that I've learned up till this point and all apply it to what I want to do in the future.
Oh, I was just gonna say this isn't necessarily related to your question, but when you're talking about the culmination of you as a kid, I've been doing graphic design since only sophomore year, but there was a sign in like I think it was 7th grade that I'd be really into it because there was this one class where we had different modules. One was like sewing, one was making a car out of driftwood, but one of them was designing a t-shirt, and I felt so bad for my partner because I would there was only one computer, and I was taking up all the time, like, trying to get it exactly right because I wanted the best, visual, there on, like, this really, um, kinda robust program, that I was working with, and I didn't get really into graphic design until sophomore year when I took an Adobe Illustrator class, but I've definitely always had that interest in graphic design and visual things.
For sure. Like it's funny how you said like how meticulous you were with putting that doing your t-shirt, and it's funny because I did all the UI and UX in our game, and it's like I swear to God, if it's off by like a millimeter, or you know what I mean, I'm like I'm gonna throw something through a wall, and I'm like, why? Especially working in, and I never had used Unity. We're building our game in Unity, so I'd never used Unity before. And so like I'm sitting in Unity and I didn't realize that everything had anchored to the asset above, or the
Oh
child and
yeah,
the
yeah,
parent
like it's the
objects.
hierarchy. Yeah.
Oh my god! And I would lose my mind because I would sit there and mess with the transforms and trying to get things to line up perfectly. But it would just drive me crazy because I'd have it in the wrong hierarchy or the wrong child object. And like, what are you talking about? It's negative 232. What's going on here? But yeah, I totally relate to that because I literally like if it's not you can see it. Even it's like the smallest amount you can see it. And you're like, this is wrong. It's wrong. It's not right. I have to fix it. In game design specifically, it's such a unique art where everything comes together. Like you have so many different things, and then adding the business aspect on top of it, it just is wild. But I wanted to ask you guys a question: like, how long? When did you guys launch your Steam page?
I believe it was in October, late October, early November, around that time.
Okay, so how has been the feedback so far from then until now? Like, how have you how do you feel things are going so far, and have you guys gotten feedback from the community?
I mean, it could be better. I think current stats on Steam. So we made a demo. The demo has about 900 downloads or so, which is pretty. I like that quite a bit. And we have
It's
about
pretty good
100
actually
wishlists. We
since
passed
October.
100 wishlists last week. Yeah. So the numbers aren't as high because I went on YouTube. I started looking up a lot of marketing things already, and then I was like, I thought we were doing relatively okay until I heard something about like 7,000 wish lists before release, and I was like,
You talking
oh,
about Chris?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
the one guy who's just on every podcast.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
the Chris, the marketing guy, Chris. Yeah,
yeah, that guy.
yeah, he's got good content though. I definitely,
Yeah,
yeah.
I watched a ton of his videos, but yeah, I heard that, and I was like, oh, I'm not doing as well as I thought. But otherwise, I mean, we've had a few like very small YouTubers or whatever play our game because I sent them like some free keys or they play our demo. Um, I think one of them enjoyed it quite a bit. Of what I've seen, some of them I just don't understand what they're saying. They're in a different country, and one of them recently, she pointed out a lot of definitely valid criticisms that I plan on fixing soon. So I'm excited to go do that. I fixed some of them already, but I like having a lot more different people, especially people who make content and like you can see them play the game while they try to explain it. I think that's really helpful for trying to fix the game or improve it for publishing.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, I just put something out there on Reddit that someone was like, "Your game sucks." I was like, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah,
So,
pretty much.
I mean, it's brutal out there, but I mean, it's I think one of the things that I know I do when something like that happens or uh they say something like just you're just like okay well that hurt my feelings but I break it down to like what they're actually saying, you know what I mean? It's like okay well what they said is this, but what they mean is that I need to improve these aspects of the game to an extent where that's not really unless they're just totally being a jerk. I know what that's how we've kind of approached the community. But like, people are going to be jerks, but
Mhm.
sometimes there's information within them being a jerk that can kind of be valid. That can kind of be like, okay, maybe we do need to reassess or relook at how we're approaching this particular problem with our game or whatever it is.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it's tough though. I mean, the community. I mean, it's one of those things. You're like, I know it's important, but how do I tap it?
Yeah,
How do I really tap it to make it effective and useful so that people just don't so it's not just like I'm just going in there to just get beat up all day long, you know? How much time do you guys spend on like let's say like a weekly basis and how do you organize what takes priority on like what needs like you're like okay this needs to get addressed first like it could be art, it could be UI elements, it could be literal code, it could be music, it could be so many different things that you're like okay this is what we need to work on, and how do you guys organize that between the two of you guys?
Yeah, so we have a shared doc. It's literally just a Google Doc that's just a list of things that we need to improve. And then, I think because it's just us two, it's actually really easy to just like text each other reminders of what needs to be done. Like I'm gonna get Josh a new background for a snow level that we're doing pretty soon here, and he was just able to remind me real easily. And as for time, it's a bit hard for me to quantify. I would say definitely my main priority, of course, is school. So I don't have the most amount of time in the world, but probably uh every few days I'll work 1 or 2 hours on it. So probably around there.
Yeah, I mean, a little con of not being very good at forcing myself to do work is that the time I spend on the game working on it varies vastly between weeks. Like, I had a week where I'd stay up till like 5 a.m. every night to work on it just because I was so into it. And then the next week, I just didn't work on it at all, maybe for like 5 minutes total. So it definitely varied a ton. I'm still getting consistent work done on it now, especially because we're approaching release. And so I definitely just have to start working on it, regardless of what I do. As for the priority, I mean, we have definitely a priority of things we want to do. Like, we need to get the levels done. We have like maybe one left, one or two left. And that's not super hard, but it does take a lot of like mental thought and energy to think about like what would make it fun, what's a unique idea that the player like might not have seen before, what's the unique puzzle they can figure out. And so while that's definitely the thing I need to do most, I tend to get distracted sometimes and I start working on other various random things, like improving the UI, just changing the colors in it, for example, if I get bored of working on the level. So it kind of just flips back and forth between the high priority things and then the things like there's very small polishing things that I want to do because I just want the game to look a little better and I'm tired of trying to work on puzzles.
Like we all have to have a date, a goal of where we're going. You know what I mean? Like, what does that look like to you guys? And have you set almost like a set of like benchmarks to be like, okay, if we hit X and when we launch, we should achieve, Y. You know what I mean? Have you guys kind of theorized that plan out a little bit? And if you have, like, what does that look like?
We had to push back the release date already once because we totally underestimated how long all of these tasks we had would take.
Mhm.
Like they seem so easy when they're written on a list, and then you get into actually doing them, and they're so hard. Especially something like fixing a bug that I thought I fixed 3 times already, and it still keeps popping up.
Oh yeah.
I think yeah, the pause was mainly because we actually don't really have as set dates.
Yeah,
So I think that's kind of the reason for that. But once the competition ended, that's kind of when it got to be slightly, at our own pace, which definitely won't be an option as we get closer and closer to the release date. I think Josh and I are going to work towards actually probably getting a spreadsheet of different things and that need to be done and different times with that. Um,
When is that release
but
date, real quick?
currently it's
April
set
8th.
for April 8th.
Okay,
Sounds good.
yes. April 8th, we're coming up. Had you guys have done the Steam Fest yet? Or are you guys planning on doing Steam Fest, or what's your
We're
guys'
enrolled in it. Yeah. The reason
this
we chose
upcoming one?
April, yeah, the February one. We enrolled
Nice.
in it. Originally the release date was going to be March 6th,
Mhm,
but we looked at what we had left to do, and I talked with like an advisor kind of on like marketing these things, and
mhm.
he kind of told me that like if your game doesn't have a lot of wish lists yet, releasing it right after Next Fest isn't a great idea because it'll just be kind of lost in the flood of all the other games releasing with Next Fest. So we decided like, okay, it's kind of fair to push it back like 1 month to finish everything we want to do, as well as kind of let it breathe on its own, not surrounded by all these probably better Next Fest games that are also coming out.
Yeah, there was a somebody's video I watched recently who had maybe you guys remember the game possibly, or maybe you've seen the video. It was something How We Die or We Die something or another. It was like Vikings, or you're like gladiators in a pit. I'll find the video. I'll send it to you guys. But what I found was interesting in his particular journey as he was making the game. But he basically had put his game out on Next Fest or whatever, and then he had one or two streamers pick it up, one or two, three streamers pick it up, and his wish list like skyrocketed. And one of the things I saw that I'm like, virality is so important. Like, if you can have one thing go
Yeah,
viral, it can make up with 6 months of effort. Like,
for
it's
sure.
that's how drastic it is. Like, find one thing that makes your game go viral. Literally, you'll realize you did 6 months of nothing real quick. But the journey was really interesting in how meticulous he looked at the Steam page and how he planned his release date based off of what else was coming out, how his thumbnail was going to look up against the other games in that category, or in that list of games that were coming up and leading up. I think there was one thing that I really caught my ear, sorry, which was he had what was it? Or he said that no games release on Saturday, Sunday, or over the weekend. So he had planned his release to go on that coming soon, or that upcoming games right before you release, to make sure he was on the top 5 over the weekend, where you basically have free visibility over the weekend, because nothing can knock you off that list essentially. But anyway, I'll send you guys that video, because like I said, he really was like meticulous on how he planned it out. And there was just kind of a lot of things I know, looking at my own journey, was like, holy crap, I need to rethink this. We need to kind of really take a step back. Not probably be as insane as he was, but really actually look at it a little bit more objectively. I believe any journey, everyone's got to level up. You know what I mean? You got to figure out how you're going to get from point A to point B, or point A to point Z, and be like, okay, well, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs as I go through this, and how am I going to make sure I am meeting the expectation of the current problem, you know what I mean? And sometimes you got to take a step back, or land flat on your face and fail, to realize, okay, this is where I went wrong, and this is how I'm going to proceed forward.
I think there's totally a lot of things we could have done better with marketing this time around. Like, I started looking to marketing maybe a month or two ago, but I didn't realize that you're supposed to go like way back to start marketing, like even with the game idea, right? And so I totally wish I knew that before we started making the game, because now we were trying to kind of like catch up on marketing. And we have like YouTube, a TikTok. We haven't really gotten anything viral yet, which would be awesome. But yeah, I totally want to see some of those things. I did hear about some of the tricks. I think April 8th is a Thursday, because I saw that trick, as well as I plan on releasing it sometime around noon. I remember that's when the Steam page refreshes too, the new and trending. But yeah, I totally want to see what else like people who are experienced in this do, because this is one of the parts I'm most lost on at the moment, of how to like make Steam pick up your game and make it popular.
If you're interested in trying to get some sort of visual content and get people to know who you are, you spend all this time on making this game and working and trying to make something great, but then once we launch, there's just no attention on the game. And so that's why I kind of developed this podcast, is to work with small indie devs, people that have just, it's either their first game, or they haven't quite figured out that marketing aspect. If you're interested, I want you guys to join the Discord. I'll have a link somewhere around me. I'll have a link where you guys can join the Discord, and there'll be an area where you can fill out, or at least submit. It's super important, and hopefully this helps. And if you're interested, by all means reach out to me, and I'd love to have you on the show. Thanks. I mean, you can definitely drown in the amount of content people have for this stuff, I tell you.
Well, I am curious what your thoughts are on like AI within the realm of graphic design, because it's definitely a controversial topic, and this is the first time I've used like AI in a project before, so I'm kind of also just curious what you think about it.
Well, you're going to get people to hate you
Yep.
right off the bat. I am actually, to be perfectly honest, I got into AI like pretty much right when ChatGPT like came out. It was like right when they're like putting it out there, and I got really into it, and I started messing around with a lot of AI art. And I got into a lot of arguments with people, because you'll get a lot of people that are purists. They're like, no, AI is not even, it's not even art. And I'm like, dude, it's a different medium. Instead of a pen, you use prompts. I'm like, instead of a program, you use this. And there's a lot of nuance behind it, because it is such a touchy subject.
Definitely.
I believe in time, I think how I look at AI art is, I think it's really good for concepting. If you want to get a concept idea out, like I've used it a lot when I'm like, because I can't draw. If I sat down and try to draw, it's just awful. And so I've used it to try and get some of those ideas out of your head. You're like, I can't draw, but somehow I need a visual to figure it out. And I've used it on those aspects to just get the idea out of my head. And in our game specific, we're lucky we have a dedicated artist. It's like that's his thing, and he makes all the art in our game, and we're very, very lucky with it. But I also acknowledge that, like, hey man, sometimes you just want to make something, and if you're a coder but not an artist, it's like, look, I just want to code something, and I just want to code these sprites in a way that I want them to move. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing for you to do that. You know what I mean? I think over time people will get over it, especially depending. I think there'll still be a little bit of a stigma if your entire game is AI art. However, I think it's still very early, very, very, very early. I guarantee you, when 3D graphics first hit the scene, people that sat there and drew 2D animation were like, this will never be a thing. You're just punching numbers on a computer. And you're like, okay, calm down. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that was a good answer to what your thought was.
Love that answer. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, you can go.
Well, I was just gonna say it's complicated. It's very, very complicated, and the people that hate it. Like, they'll freaking string you up, they'll guillotine you, they will kill you because they hate it so much. The people that don't care, like me, are like, oh, okay, yeah, cool, you're making a thing. And then there's people that are like, I don't even think there are very many people that are like, it's the greatest thing ever, I'm making everything AI art. Yet, I think eventually there will be a lot of coming around. It's very early, and there's a lot of purists out there that will literally want to kill you. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, totally. I totally understand what everyone says about it. I think just kind of based on the timing of my graphic design journey, it's like bef- um before 6 months ago, I had never done anything like for profit in terms of AI. So I wasn't ever really worried about that. And just like having the background in non-AI, like my main thing was vector graphics. Like, that's what I did the board games in. Um and then I did transition a bit more into Photoshop, which is actually like how I worked with AI for this one. So in Echoes of Eldoria, I would kind of like edit edit the sprite in Photoshop. And then the biggest thing that I used AI for that was just so helpful, that saved me so much time, is the platforms. So I basically, for each level, I would get one platform exactly how I want it, um, with Photoshop, with Illustrator, all that, and then its ability to just replicate like that exact style was so huge. So I don't have to make each individual platform. And I totally get why people don't like that. You know, it some could definitely call it cheating, or that it's not art, but let me tell you, there was still a lot of work involved in that. Not near as much as it would have been, but there's still definitely some time involved in
It
that.
makes me think. So it's like, I got in a big argument with somebody about this. And I'm like, so you're mad. Like, let's say, so that's what you did. I'm like, so you're going to be mad at somebody for not going out and hiring an artist and having them make these things for them. Instead, they were able to use a tool to expedite that issue. I'm like, I don't understand the logic. I'm like, especially students, like, I'm sure you guys aren't rolling in dough right now. You know what I mean? So it's like, you're not going to go out and hire an artist. I understand these tools are supposed to be able to, it's supposed to help you or help people that don't have, dedicated artists, you know, build these things. It's like, I'm trying to think of the right word, but it's like people want to gatekeep. Gatekeeping is a great word for it. People are gatekeeping the whole like art community is like, well, no, if you want art in it, you got to hire an artist. Well, what if I'm not, like, I'm not an artist, and I'd rather not dump a bunch of money on somebody. If I'm just trying to concept something out, I don't even know if it's going to work. You know what I mean? And that's the big thing for me. It's like I said, it's early. It's still very, very early when it comes to AI art. And I think eventually people, the ones that are the ones that'll want to kill you will eventually be quiet, will quiet down to where their voices, you really won't hear them very much. And it'll become, I'm not going to say fully accepted, but people will expect it now. It not accepted, but more expected. And so I hope that kind of helps. But yeah, I totally get it. I mean, you have some stuff that you need to put in, and you're like, dude, I don't even know. By the time I learn how to become an artist, I might as well, like, you're like, I'm trying, unless you spent your entire time sitting there trying to find an artist, like, it just doesn't make any sense when your guys are just sitting here trying to make a project to put it out there. So I get it. I totally get it. I'm, like I said, I'm very neutral in this, leaning more towards, I think that there are some use cases for AI art in that case. But in the same breath, if I saw a AAA put AI art in, I'd probably flame them. To be honest with you, if I saw a AAA, Call of Duty's like, we use AI art, I'm like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, that's insane.
Yeah, for the zombie thing.
Oh, did they do it?
Yeah, they already did it. They in the newest Call of Duty game, they put out a poster of a zombie, and it had 6 fingers. So everyone immediately was like, "That doesn't look right. That's totally AI generated."
Oh my! So there you go. Exactly. So it's like when you got to, because they have the resource. I mean, good God, Call of Duty makes so much freaking. We don't need to go down that road, but it's just, you're like, come on, call it, like, you guys can't even get artists. You have artists. You have them in the studio. Just have someone make it. Indies, I have a completely different feel for it for indies. You're small teams. You get just 2 of you. A lot of people are just single one-shop indies. I'm fortunate enough to have 5 of us, and so it's like we're able to kind of balance out the duties, and everyone kind of a little bit has their specialties. But when it's just like a couple people or one person, it's like, you can't expect that person to literally be able to do everything. Do music, do the art, do the coding, do the marketing, it's unrealistic, and it's gatekeeping from the other side, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about AI art specifically is that I think it gets criticized a lot because people see it as lazy, and people see it as and it's about like the resources, like you said, or like the vision, right? So I mean, I think that's kind of why I totally am okay with our use of AI art. I think Dylan, even though he uses AI art, right, he totally already had a vision of what he wanted the game to look like. Like, he'll send me the platforms or the background or whatever, and I'll implement them in the game, and I think it looks great. And then he'll get on and immediately start flaming me for it because, I missed the detail or something like that. And I mean, it does end up looking better after he goes through it, like, for sure. I like the visual aspect. I think Dylan's just more detailed with it. But yeah, I totally see that he already has a vision for AI art, right? And so it's really just about like, I think in that case, it's not really as much lazy as it really is just a tool. Like, you know what you want it to look like. You already have your plan, and AI art is just like, it's a good way to make it and save some time because we were very limited on that in the competition. And we're still relatively limited on that considering we're in college and things like that.
Well, get ready. The pitchforks will be here, so I hope you guys are ready for it. I love, but it's so true. You have an idea, and this is, I just want to be clear. I'm coming from a perspective of, I'm not an artist. I'm not a tactile artist. I cannot sit there and draw something. It just doesn't work. My brain and my hand say, go away. And so it's like but you have the vision so clear in your head. You're like, how do I get this out without having a third party come in and say, okay, tell me what you want? And you're like, yeah, that ain't it. You know what I mean? Okay, well, then pay me more money because I need to do a revision. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, it literally doesn't make any sense, where you can sit there with the prompt and you can just you can tweak it and tweak it and tweak it and tweak it. And then let's say you get even close, you can throw it in Photoshop and actually clean it up. And so it's like, I just feel like that's, give it time. We're so early with AI art, but the pitchforks are coming and I just know it. Tell me about your game, when it's coming, you know, demos, where they can find you, your handles, all, just give me all the info.
I mean, our game is currently on Steam, Echoes of Eldoria. We currently have a YouTube and a TikTok, and I think that's about it. We have a demo out. We're gonna be on Next Fest. Yeah, we're releasing April 8th. Hopefully, we'll have an Instagram, something like that, up soon too. But
Yeah, no, thanks guys, and definitely keep in touch, and yeah, we'll go from there, and we'll support each other games. I'll wishlist and play your game as well, and you know, see what it's all about. But I think that's a great way to end the video.